guys, I am back to film my June 2020 book haul, and I went a little crazy. Yeah, that was a thing that happened. There's just a lot of books, so let's get through some of them, or all of them. So basically what happened was I didn't actually have that many I was gonna buy, and then with the state of the world and everything that was going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that, I was trying to support more black authors. So I bought a bunch of those, and then there was also Queer Blackathon that was running. So I bought some books specifically to read for that. So there was a bunch of new books that I bought that wasn't originally anticipating buying in June. So there's that. I guess I will go through, let's see, how do I want to do this? Usually I do the hardbacks first. So bottom of the stack. Okay. So first off, we've got my last two picks for Book of the Month. I did end up canceling Book of the Month with things that came to light with Book of the Month due to everything that's going on and their seemingly lack of respect for people of color actually like promoting their stuff, which is just terrible. Shae and I, who basically had gotten it at the same time together to get books to read together for buddy reads, just decided that this was not worth it. Frankly, I signed up for them only when they had the young adult one, and then they got rid of the young adult one, and they kept saying they were going to give us young adult options after they got rid of the young adult, but they still hadn't yet, so I was getting kind of annoyed with that to begin with. So don't give me young adult and then be like, oh, well, we promise we'll give you more, but you don't. So these are the last two I got before I canceled. So the first one is The Last Light, which was one of their thriller picks. 2 women, 2 flights, 1 last chance for disaster. So it's basically 2 women that are like trying to change their life situation, and they happen to meet like at the airport, and they happen to look similar enough that they kind of like switch places and each go to the place that the other one was going to go to. So it sounds interesting. So I ended up getting that one. Me. And then of course I got Home Before Dark. I had to. Riley Sager like is awesome. Like my favorite thriller was written by him, which is Lock Every Door. Some people said that this one's actually even better than Lock Every Door, so I'm super excited to read this one. This is like haunted house vibes, which is like so up my jam. So I think like her dad is famous, and he wrote a book specifically about like their old house, and then she basically inherits that house. So she returns to like, you know, get it ready for sale, and shit starts happening because I'm the house, and I'm so excited for that. So there is that one. The next one I got was one that I did end up pre-ordering, and it is The Girl from Widow Hills, which is another thriller. So she was basically, when she was 6, she was swept away while sleepwalking during a rainstorm, and like everyone tried to find her and couldn't find her, but then against all odds they ended up finding her, and she was like a miracle, and her mother wrote a book about it, and there was fame and all this stuff. And then as soon as she was like old enough, she changed her name and disappeared because she just didn't want to deal with that anymore. And like it's basically people, I guess, refinding out about her and things like that. So it sounds interesting. And I've read something similar to that with someone who changes their name. I can't remember what it was. Oh well. And then I ended up getting the Circus Rose. Like, look at that cover. Isn't it gorgeous? That is so pretty. A great performer is a double act all by herself. So yeah, they are circus performers. Choo-choo. something sinister lurks. You know, it's circus, there's a tragedy, something happens, sinister, sounds kind of spooky, all up there for Lindsay. Okay, next up is one of the books that I did specifically get because I was trying to support more Black authors, and this was A Song of Wraths and Ruins, which, I mean, isn't that cover just, like, gorgeous? It's so pretty. So, and I think people have said that this was really good. There's a festival, Malik. The festival is a chance to escape his war-stricken home and start a new life with his sisters in the prosperous desert city, but when a vengeful spirit abducts his younger sister, as payment to enter the city, he strikes a fatal deal: kill the crown princess in exchange for his sister's freedom. Yep, that sounds fantasy. So there is that one. And then the next 3 were books that I ended up getting specifically to read during a Queer Blackathon. The first one was Clap When You Land, which is really cool, and it's actually like the first book that I've read that's in verse, which is pretty awesome because I just don't think about getting books in verse. I did read this one the first day of Queer Blackathon. It's basically about 2 girls who live in like different areas of the world. One's in, I think, Puerto Rico, and the other's in the U.S. And their father is in a plane crash and is killed, and after the fact that the father is killed, it's come to light that basically he had 2 families. So they're both sisters from the same father, different mothers, and it's kind of like they're dealing with the grief of their father passing and kind of like coming together to form kind of like a family situation. And it's super cute. I really enjoyed it. The one sister does have a girlfriend, which is why it worked for the Queer Blackathon. And then the other book that I ended up reading during Queer Blackathon was The Deep by River Solomon. This is like so powerful. This is really good, especially for such a baby book, so it was a quick read. This is like, it's kind of hard to explain. So it's kind of like mermaids, and basically there is this like this kind of creature. They're water dwellers, and they're descendants of pregnant African slave women who were thrown overboard when they became too much of a burden, and they ended up having their babies in the water, but then they turned into these kind of like half human, half sea creatures. And like as time passed, they didn't like these creatures didn't want their descendants to have to deal with the ramifications of like how they were created. So they have one person in like this area who basically becomes the holder of the memories. And like each year she does this kind of ritual to help them like gain some of these memories back so that they could kind of remember it once a year but not have to be bombarded like the whole time with like this harsh reality of where they came from. And the main character like basically just can't stand it anymore and runs. And it's kind of like her story of that. So it was really good, like really good. And then the other one I got, which I started during Queer Blackathon but didn't finish. I did finish it overall, but I didn't finish it during Queer Blackathon, was An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon as well. This one was, I liked The Deep better than this one. This one was science fiction, and maybe I'm just not as good at science fiction, but it's like, and it was really like kind of brutal. So basically there is a group of people who live on like a space vessel called the Matilda, and it's basically trying to send everybody to a habitable place to live, but it's been going for like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years trying to find this place, and it's like separated by like decks, and each group in each deck has kind of like their own language, their own culture, their own things like that. And obviously the decks, like the poorer folks, the black folks, are like in the lower decks. And it's like this girl Aster who is trying to like figure out what happened to her mother because she went missing, and like find out just like the whole story of everything. So it was really good. It was, I don't know, maybe I just had trouble like the whole like ship mechanic. I like tried to visualize the ship, and I like kind of had issues visualizing the ship. I'm not sure. I don't read a lot of science fiction, so maybe that's something I should read a little bit more of. There's that. Next off, we have got, to go along with everything else, White Rage and Right Fragility. These are books that basically do talk about racism and everything else. I've not had a chance to read them yet. They came super late because everyone else was buying them. So I didn't have a chance. Like, I had to wait for them to show up. So they showed up, but I was trying to finish other things, so I haven't had a chance. But I definitely will read them. They're obviously nonfiction because they speak about the truth of the racial divide and things like that. So I am looking forward to being educated by reading these, so I will try and get to those in July. And then next, but not next, yeah, still so many books. We have got Radiance, which is me trying to get a little bit more into romance, because I don't read romance right now, but I'd like to try. I don't know, like, I don't like contemporary because I feel like I get bored with contemporary, and I feel like I would get bored with romance. So I'm trying to find like more like fantasy type romance to try. And this was one that popped up. So this is basically, I can't remember who read this. Riley Marie might have read it and did like a vlog about reading it. But it just sounded hilarious. It's basically about these two races, and they're basically required to like form a marriage alliance, and they just find each other like repulsive. Like the one race, obviously you can see there's the difference. And they both just find each other repulsive about the different types of races and trying to get used to that. And it just sounds hilarious. And then, of course, they start, like, liking each other. But it just sounds so much fun. So I got that. The next one I got is this little baby guy. So, Rarely is actually one that my friend recommended because I was telling her I was trying to find a retelling that was queer for a Pride-a-thon. So a lot of books I ended up reading for June were obviously for Pride, but then there were some others thrown in there. So this was one that I specifically read for Pride, and it is a male World War II era retelling of Beauty and the Beast. That's all you really need to know. It was super cute. And the next one I got was when I finally went into Target again for like the first time in like 3 months. So this is What She Knew, which is another thriller, because Lindsay just wanted to get more thrillers. Rachel is walking the park with her 8-year-old son Ben when he asks if he can run ahead. It's an ordinary request on an ordinary Sunday afternoon, and Rachel has no reason to worry, until Ben vanishes. The police are called, search parties go out, and Rachel, already insecure after her recent divorce, feels herself coming undone. As hours and then days pass without sign of Ben, everyone who knows him is called into question, from Rachel's newly married ex-husband to her mother-of-the-year sister. Inevitably, media attention focuses on Rachel too, and the public's attitude towards her begins to shift from sympathy to suspicion. So she's trying to figure out what happened to her son. So the next one I got, I just kept going, was Stars Above. I finished the Lunar Chronicles, reading them with Shae and with April. Why do I feel like I've talked about this before? I don't know. I'm so confused. I think. I don't know. Whatever. So Oh, it's because I talked about Leviathan's story. That's what I talked about. Like, everything's wearing together, kids. So yeah, this is the, like, side stories after it that just basically go into a little more information about all the characters. And considering how much I enjoyed the Lunar Chronicles, I had to get that. Next off, we got Shiver from Maggie Stiefvater. I read the first book in the Raven cycle and really enjoyed it. And after reading the Lunar Chronicles, I asked Shae for some suggestions on what I could get that were kind of like the similar vein of Scarlet and Wolf from that series, and she suggested that I try Shiver, which I figure I might as well since I liked the Raven Boys. So this is basically about a girl who spent years watching the wolves in the woods behind her house, and then one of those wolves, the yellow-eyed wolf, has kept watching back. She feels deeply familiar for him, but she doesn't know why. Sam has lived 2 lives. As a wolf, he keeps the silent company of the girl he loves, and then for a short time each year he is human, and then he finally decides when he's human to talk to her and things like that. So there is that. And then 2 more little baby books. I've got Moon Called, which is another one that Shae recommended when I asked about this. This is another one like with werewolves and things like that. Mercy Thompson's sexy next door neighbor is a werewolf. She tinkers with a VW bus at her mechanic shop that happens to belong to a vampire, but she's not exactly normal herself, and her connection to the world of things that go bump in the night is about to get her in a whole lot of trouble. So yeah, a new and dazzling world of werewolf, shapeshifters, witches, and vampires. So, sounds like something I should enjoy. And last but not least, another one of them I'm trying to get myself into reading more romance, and that is Kristen Feehan's Shadow Games. This is the first book in the Shadow Walker series. She's been really enjoying her books, so I wanted to give some of them a try, so I went on her like webpage and basically looked through all the series that she had. Something fell. What fell? I don't know. And this one is the one that sounded the most interesting to me. The brainchild of renowned scientist Peter Whitney and his brilliant daughter Lily, the Ghostwalker experiment was created to enable the psychic abilities of elite squadron, transforming their natural telekinetic powers into a unique military weapon. But something has gone wrong. Yeah. So, yeah. In the isolated underground lab, the men have been dying, victims of bizarre incidents. Captain Rylan Miller knows he is next. When Dr. Whitney himself is murdered, Rylan is the only person, has only one person left to trust, the beautiful Lily. Possessed of an uncanny sixth sense herself, Lily shares his every fear, every betrayal, every growing suspicion, and every passionate bend of the heat. So, yes. So it sounds interesting. So that is the first one I'm going to try from that, and hopefully, sure. That will be good, and that is everything that I bought. So yeah, I went a little crazy. I would say I'm not going to go as bad in July, but there's like 10 books coming out that I want. I was like, dang, I'm going to have to really like look through each one of these and figure out which ones I really want, because that's a lot of money, 10 books. Oh yes, and Lindsay's wearing this because the eczema is out of control, just so you guys know if you were curious. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this book haul for June 2020. I will see you guys later for the next video. Everyone have a very good rest of the day. Bye!